Hello everyone, we are live yet again, and this is going to be one of my authors chats of the week. And as always, I'll give the platform a moment to start notifying that I am out and about, as well as a chance to give my co-host a moment so we can sync up, and then in a few minutes we'll be talking about books, writing, publishing, and everything in between. So if you like any of those things, come and hang out and stick around. We'll be get going in just a little bit. Keep an eye out for, like I said, my co-host. And beyond that, I've been working on my special editions. Maybe we'll have some time to get to that news momentarily. Let's see. Keeping an eye out. Where'd you go? Sometimes it takes a moment for everything to sync up. Hopefully I can get connected, but you never know. But yeah, special edition. So this will be my first time I've ever created them, and I actually got the proofs in so I can kind of adjust them and see how they go going forward. Maybe I'll be able to show some of them off in a little bit. We will see. But yeah, beyond that, I've been working on outlining not just a new book, but it'll be a first book of an entirely new series, which is a lot of fun. Okay, I sent the invite. Let's see if he sees it. Hopefully. And hopefully we'll get things going. But yeah, entirely new series. This will be something akin to The Witcher meets D&D. It'll be an epic style dark fantasy. And there we go. Let's see. And a huge cast of characters, multiple POVs. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you well.
Perfect. I can hear you, but I cannot see you. It always pops up with that little icon automatically. I don't know why it does that every time.
It said joining with audio only.
There's a way to turn on the video. I don't know it off the top of my head.
Okay, well, I guess we may have to just go with this because I'm not the most savvy with this. Yeah, it's setting. Oh, well, here we go, settings. Let me see if it's in here.
Yeah, it's something like you have to turn on your camera and then like click approve or something.
Okay, there we go. Can you see?
Like, twice, maybe. Aha, there you go.
Hi.
I knew there was something about like clicking it twice, and I was like, try again.
I'm just on my phone, so if it shakes around, I do apologize.
It's okay. Everybody kind of jumps into these however they can. So, how are you? How's your week going?
Oh, it's going well. In my day job, I'm a social studies teacher for middle school, so
Wow.
I have to split my time with that. But I do also have two classes of creative writing that I get to help them with.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, 7th and 8th graders don't really want to write right now, but I think it's going to serve them well when they take their tests and things like that.
Very true. And every so often you'll get one that will appreciate it, and that diamond in the rough. I remember, I think I started really liking the idea of being a writer when I was like 7, so really young. And anytime I had those opportunities, I would take it for creative writing and stuff like that. But not everybody is like that. I'm a weird one.
I do have two that I have to kind of hold back because I have to read all of these stories, so I have to tell them, yes, 750 words, kind of where we're going to stop, and they're like, I'm on my 12th chapter. I'm like, well, keep going, but just show me the first 750 words.
Yep, that would definitely have been me, because I don't know, there are definitely some people who have that storytelling kind of just essence. They just have that in them to be able to create and tell wonderful tales. Now, since I'm getting a little ahead of myself, so how this kind of works, in case you've never jumped into any of my lives, depending on who pops in or out, if there's any bookish related comment or question in the feed, I try to make note of that, and I think depending on how they join, I may or may not see all those things. So if I'm missing things, feel free to, answer questions, note them, because I just may not visually see them on my end. And
Okay. I have to put my glasses on then so I can
that's a
read.
very small feed, and it'll like bounce up. But outside of that, it's pretty conversational. We'll start off with you introducing yourself and kind of what you write, and we'll go from there.
Okay. Sounds great.
So whenever you are ready.
Okay. My name's Robert Booth. I write under R. Andrew Booth, and I write a series just started. I have one book out called Easy Town. It's a crime caper series. We follow Easy Town, that's his name, master safecracker and his misadventures.
Oh, fun! So, what made you decide that you were going to finally write a book and sounds like series is going to come from it? So, what made you decide to just start this endeavor? Because it's a process.
It's a process. Really, what started it was a song by Michael Bublé, and it "Feeling Good" was the song, and I just kind of thought of it in a film noir type setting, and I made the whole thing up in my mind about how it proceeds and the guy, and he's got the girl, and the girl does him wrong, and he's there's a necklace involved, and all kind of things that I was just thought in my mind, and it was kicking around for about 2 years, and I finally said I got to write this down, and I'm in Louisiana, and one of the nicknames of New Orleans is Easy Town. So I came up with a play on that. That my character's name is Ernest Z. Town, and Town has an E on the end of it. And he is colloquially known by his friends, even though he doesn't have many friends, as Easy Town. And if anybody ever guesses what the Z means, I will, I don't know, write endorse a book to them or something. But I have a name for him. His middle name is Z, and but I haven't had anybody guess it in 3 years yet.
Oh, wow. Okay, I have to like ponder this one, so it can't be like the obvious Z middle names or anything like that. So I'll have to think
Well,
about.
it may be obvious. It may not be obvious. It just fits. It fits the character, I think.
Oh, I like that. Ooh, the challenge. Definitely, I was gonna say, make sure anytime you have readers reach out to you and be like, "Can you guess?"
Mm.
This is your challenge if you choose to accept it. But that's really cool, and I love the fact that you're in Louisiana. I lived in New Orleans for the better part of a decade. It's where I actually met my husband. So
Yeah,
love that city. Love it. All about that. So does the fact that you live in Louisiana and are close to places like New Orleans, I don't know if you're in New Orleans proper or somewhere outside, have any effect on your setting of your book?
It definitely does. This book takes place completely in Louisiana. It has some made up towns, but it's a reflection of towns that I know. I'm sorry, I've got a call coming in, and I need to get rid of that. Sorry about that. Can you still hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Um, I let's see, where was it? Oh, yes, the towns around me influenced a lot of the settings. Some of the unique places in Louisiana. There's a place called Avery Island where they actually make Tabasco. Influenced one setting. It's a oddity of an inland island. It's completely surrounded by water, but it's nowhere near the ocean. But it is an island. Um, and by the way, I live up near Baton Rouge, so I can get to New Orleans plenty times, and I've seen pretty much everything in New Orleans, and unfortunately, a lot of it that I remember has been destroyed through hurricanes, fires, and things like that. But they rebuilt it as best they could.
Yeah, and I mean, every time a storm comes through that city, there's a bit of mourning, and then they rebuild again, and it just has a new reiteration. So it's one of those cities that will persevere until it sinks.
Yeah, and I'm trying to explore out. I've got also have a steampunk novel which is seems to be never ending. I'm about 80,000 words in right now, and I don't think I've even hit the middle yet. So it's going to need a lot of editing at some point. But it's a faring novel. The group of people end up on this planet that is essentially a snow globe, and they crash in literally into the planet, and they can't get back out. They have to make their life there.
Oh wow.
And the planet, of course, is full of it's nothing but ocean underneath that solid crust. So they're living underneath the ocean.
Ooh, intriguing. I love that. So, no, I was going to say, I'm an author who writes a wide variety of books, but they all still fall under the greater umbrella of high fantasy. So, second world fantasy, anything that's not set on our world today or, things like that. But it is so much fun hearing authors that totally want to branch out to totally different genres. Now, since you have one book, and I thought you mentioned that it's the first of a series, are you trying to release different books of different series simultaneously? Are you going to finish your first series first? Or how are you thinking of approaching all your stories?
I kind of write all of it together. It's kind of like one day I feel like, okay, I need to be in the steampunk world, and I need to be on Aor. That's the name of my frozen world. I need to be on Aor today. And another day, like Sunday, I'm like, well, I need to. Easy is tapping the back of my brain, and I need to see what he wants right now. And I'm in the second Easy Town book right now. It's called Easy Money, and we're working our way through that. I'm pretty sure I've got maybe 2 chapters left to finish, and then we're going to start the editing on that.
Ah, that is fun. And that's exciting. I understand about having multiple works going on at once. I am very familiar with that. Can never stop having, at least 3, if not more, far more projects at different stages. So I get it. How do you figure out how to schedule and plan and organize everything that's going on? Because you said you're a teacher as one job. And for me, I think no matter what level of writing, it's a job. It could be a second job, but it's another job. Like, how do you keep that balance with everything?
Well, I mean, when we just started school year 9 weeks ago, it was all hands on deck as far as my brain was. That we had to go into teaching, we had to get back into writing lesson plans, and my school district just switched over to a completely new type of lesson plan. So it was kind of a learning process. And I stake out the weekends, at least some hours. And my wife is going to hate this, but sometimes I have to tell her I can't watch football with her, and we have to write. And I stake out probably at least 4 to 6 hours on the weekends to write, and luckily I'm pretty good at typing, so I can usually knock out about 10 pages per story in that time frame. So it's 20 pages over 6 hours, and I mean it's not great sometimes, and I have to tear it all up sometimes, but that's what I try to do, and writing is just one of these things that it's not that I want to do it. I just kind of have to do it, or I'm going to go nuts. So I have to put something down. Like I tell my kids, it's right now it's a chore, but then later in your life you're going to be like, I don't have time to write, and you're going to say those words to yourself, and you're not going to believe it.
Yeah.
And they still don't believe it, but I keep telling them it'll happen.
It will. I mean, yeah. And then you have the counter thing where you're trying. Some of us really do what we can to find that time, because it is hard to find unless you are really good about coming up with a daily plan or a schedule. And I know authors who write every day. It doesn't matter if it's 5 minutes. It doesn't matter if it's 5 hours. But they try to put something on paper every day. I try to do during the weekdays, make sure I get a chance to put something again on paper. But yeah, everybody's writing speed is different. And so Sometimes you can write 20 pages and then be exceedingly happy in 6 hours. Some people get 600 words in 6 hours.
Yeah.
It's different. So the fact that
That's
you're doing it is fantastic.
quality versus quantity. There's an argument to be said there, but like I tell the kids that in my writing classes, like at this point, I don't really care about the quality. I want you to get something down, and then once we have the words, we'll start editing it and we'll start cleaning it up. But we got to have something to start with, and that's what they're resistant to. But
Yeah. Yeah.
sometimes my editors are like, can you send us less?
I get that. And yeah, that's the thing is there are so many people who get intimidated about the writing process or get stuck in it because they're trying to make that first draft the draft, but that's not ever going to be the case. You do have to edit. And so when you get that in your head and you accept that, it's a little more of a release that, yes, put words on paper. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't even have to be good for the first time. That's why you edit and then you edit and you edit another 1,000 few times.
No, I was explaining the concept actually today of kill your darlings. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, when you find that perfect phrase and you think it's the best sentence, that's the one you take out first. If it makes sense without your darling there, then I'm sorry, it can't be in the paper.
Yep.
And they're like, yeah, no. And I was like, yeah, you can put it somewhere else later, but right now it's not going to be there. If it makes sense without it, you don't need it.
It's a very smart way to approach. Actually, since you are a teacher, especially on the creative writing, does the fact that you are an educator of writing affect how you approach your own writing?
It certainly does because I when I'm writing, it's not when I'm putting it down, I don't have that in the back of my head. When I'm editing, that's when I'm like, it better be really, really good editing because I'm grading other people's things. And if they find mine and say, oh, look, Mr. Booth had a typo here. And I had one book that actually my first book went out with it had a typo, but it was, when I went back and checked what I sent um, my editor is like, they changed it. I was like, it wasn't me. I have the proof. I have the receipts. But it was a single letter, and I was like, I can live with it. It's my first book, and it's out there, and it's an ebook, but it was my book, and I was the publisher, but I had someone else edit it because I felt I was too close to Mr. Town, and I would not do him justice by editing my own work at that time.
Yeah, and it's always good to have someone else have eyes on it because the fact that you said, if you're too close to your work, it may not be necessarily a grammatical error, but it may be a plot hole that you're not seeing because, again, it makes sense in your mind, but then someone else could be like, hey, what about ... And you're like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, I did put a plot hole in Easy Town, and only people who have been in Louisiana may notice it. Um, that
Plot hole
in
or pothole? Which one are we talking about?
It's a plot hole. I mean, it's not a big one, but only people from Louisiana would understand it. Yes, it could be a pothole too. Um, that I made a statement in the book that it was a dry town, but then 2 pages later, Easy Town went out and bought him a bottle of alcohol. And then my mother was one of my beta readers, and she said, that's not right. They can't have that in a dry town. I'm like, only people in Louisiana would understand that.
or in the Bible, the South, the Bible Belt. I
Yeah,
do know that there are a couple of dry towns here and there that still kind of exist. It's strange, but
yeah.
they
We still the town I live in. We still have. They put the blue ribbons up on Sunday. We have a blue law still.
Oh
They
wow.
literally like blanket off all the alcohol in Walmart Saturday to Sunday.
Wow. And that's the thing, it is fun to kind of incorporate regional or specific little details that some readers will just read and take it as
Mhm.
is, and then other people are like, yes, yes, I know. because that's someone's experience there, or something they can relate to in a little more personal way, just because you've added those little details in there. Let me go back. So you have Easy, you said, as your main character. Is everything through his point of view, or do you have multiple point of view characters, or how did you decide to tell your story?
Most of it's through Easy's point of view. However, we get like um, a few points. We have the omnipotent narrator that's actually, in my mind, is Easy looking back, telling this tale
Mhm.
because he's telling it mostly from first person, and sometimes he'll have a little aside that I didn't know that at the time. So he is telling you the tale later.
Okay, that's cool. And so, what I was going to say, what is one of your favorite aspects about this book and story that when you were coming up with it, just you were like, yes, I love this. This is a really neat detail. I'm super excited to be able to put it in. Because there's sometimes those little just moments when you're working, you're like, oh, this is a neat scene or a neat character. Is there anything that was kind of.
One of it is Easy's trait, one of his traits. He's a safe cracker. Even though he hates that term, he
Mhm.
likes to call himself the old, and I'm aging myself here, a yegg, which is somebody who manipulates a safe without actually doing any damage to it. And to do this, he has to have very sensitive fingers, and he literally polishes the skin from his fingers. So he only has one layer of skin left on his left hand. And he has
Wow.
to do that, and it's very painful, but he does that for every job. And his protector slash girlfriend slash mortal enemy, I guess. The femme fatale bought him a special pair of gloves so he can wear and not have his fingers completely in agony constantly because, like I said, he only has literally baby skin on his fingers, and he just puts his hand to the safe, and that's how he feels what's happening inside the safe.
Oh wow, I like that. That is a fun detail.
Yeah, and sadly, I actually had to try it out myself to see if it works, and it really does. You can actually feel vibrations if you polish your skin enough, and it's not fun. So to do some of these things, I had to learn how to pick locks, and I actually can pick most locks now.
Hey, I watched an article once, and it was talking about people who are paid because there's so many like not just locks, but especially safes
Right,
that
old
are
safes.
yeah, that people are actually paid to open because they have all these old safes and they don't have
Right.
the original codes or the keys, and it's an occupation for a few people, and it's wild, it's
Yeah.
fascinating.
And this in this book, the first book, he actually runs across like the safe. And if you've seen, there's a movie called I think Army of Thieves, or then they had a sequel, and the sequel was all about a guy who was facing this series of safes, the Gandamarang, like the ring cycle, basically.
Yep.
And he's talking about how all the intricacies of the safe, but the safe he was talking about is basically impossible. It's a safe that once it locks, it never opens.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, okay, that sounds neat, but that kind of defeats the point. But
Hmm.
that's kind of where I went with some of this. That the safe that Easy ultimately has to get out of, he of course gets locked into it. It's a vault, and he has to escape from a airtight vault from the inside.
I was gonna say you better do it quick because when it's airtight, there's only a
He,
limited time.
he had 35. I mean, it's a room size vault, so he had like about 35 minutes of air. And he did find a way out, so everybody can rest easy. But sometimes all these little technical details about real life, I get kind of bored with, or I get frustrated with having to fit everything in that, and that's when I go off to my planet Aor. And now that it's a new planet, I can come up with all completely different new laws of physics. So that's what I like about writing a couple things. When I get stuck on something or frustrated with something, I can just switch to the other story.
And for me, it's for me when I do that kind of stuff, it makes me feel like it's just that one allows me to step away from the first project a little bit, so when I come back
Yeah.
to it, I can look at it with fresher eyes. And then again, it's that moment of, oh, this is fun, this is exciting again, because depending on where you are in a project, if you're in your 50th round of editing or whatever you are, it gets a little boring, a little tedious, and it's nice to be able to change things up.
Yeah, especially somebody as close to me as Easy Town. Sometimes I just want to tell them, look, you gotta be quiet. You gotta sit quietly in the back row because I don't need you in my ear right now. But he likes to talk a lot.
Some characters definitely do. I get
Hmm.
that. So, with your first book out, do you have any idea of what, or do you have a publishing plan for whichever project comes next? Do you have like, oh, I
Well,
want to release then, or that's my goal, or something like that?
right. I've been looking into the publish on demand, so I can put the book out, and if somebody wants a hard copy, I can have them buy the hard copy and print on demand. Quality is what I'm concerned about. I want to make sure it's because I'm a book nerd. I've got something like 900 books sitting on my shelf right now. I even have a a storage room that's full of books. That's nothing but books. But that's what I'm looking for is I'm going to put it out as an ebook, and I'm also going to do this one as a hard copy, but I need to find a print on demand that I'm going to be happy with.
Yeah, because I mean, there's Amazon and Ingram Sparks, and both of them will also distribute for you drafted digitals, getting into paperbacks, but not hardcover yet. And
Mhm.
Book Vault does everything,
Right.
but not distribution. It's purely print on demand. But I just got my first special edition proofs and for one of my series from Book Vault, and they're very nice quality. So I'm excited about that, and I do know they have a print on demand aspect to them if I so choose to go down that route.
Well, the one advantage that I have has been getting into the weeds. My sister just retired from a printing company here locally where I live, and she was the basically setup person, and she was the art director. So she does my cover. She did my cover, and it was just phenomenal. And I get it for going over there and fixing a sink or something like
Do
that.
you
So
have an example of your book nearby? And if not, that's totally fine. I just was asking since
no,
you were mentioning
unfortunately,
one.
unfortunately, I don't right now. It's a ebook. It's available on Amazon under Easy
Mhm.
Town with an E. If you want to look at it, town has an E on the end of it. E, of course, Easy Town, of course, has an E on it too. But um, it's available on Amazon and also Barnes and Noble and pretty much any place you can get an ebook, they have it. It's under R. Andrew Booth if you look it up by author. But it's basically a big vault with a dollar sign and a silhouette of Easy looking at it. And that's kind of my theme for Easy Town is we always see him in silhouette because um, he's mysterious. That's his thing. He's trying to be the everyman. He's somebody that you look at him and you forget about him. That's his goal.
Well, it sounds like that's a good goal to have if you're a person who's working in like opening vaults and safes and
Hmm.
some
Yeah.
stuff that might be considered a little shady depending on
Yeah.
what side of the.
I have a short story where he started, and tells you because he just came out of jail in this first book, and I have a short story that precedes it that tells you how he ended up in there. And it was
Oh,
a pretty nice adventure, and I liked that one. And I was writing it as just a short story, but Easy Town, it was weird. Easy Town actually was the one that I was inspired by the song, and then I backfilled it with the short story. And then also right after that, I mean, immediately after that, I wrote another short story about a survivor of Sodom and Gomorrah,
ooh.
and that one. I had written for a contest, and they ended up not liking it because it was Sodom and Gomorrah. But I thought it was an interesting story.
And just because it doesn't work for one contest doesn't mean it's not going to work for others. That's one thing to keep in consideration. It's just there's so many factors into that. Plus, if you have your own personal short stories, and depending on if you how you are trying to reach followers, we haven't got to this point yet. Like if you have a newsletter, having those kind of freebie tasters, these little short stories for people to sample your style of writing are always great to hook them in, and then be like, well, if you like this, buy this.
Right, I was just looking at a Substack yesterday and looking at that. It's mostly news, but I did see some authors in there, so I'm thinking about jumping into Substack. It's just again, it's the time limitations that I have to come up with content, and I've got my golden 6 hours that I like to write. So sometimes it may be a while between updates, but I'm during the summer. I'm kind of open to, so maybe it's a summer Substack. I don't know if they have such a thing, but I'll see if I can swing that.
Yeah, it's important for writers to remember that you're a writer because you write. Because there
Hmm.
are so many things in these outside demands. You feel like that you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to be on social media, you need to have a website, whatever those pressures that you need to do this, which reaching readers is important, especially if you self-publish. Tremendously important that you do something, but writing is the important thing.
Right. And like I was telling my wife, if I don't sell a single copy, sometimes that's fine. If it's just something I send my friends and they're happy with it, that's also fine. It's just if it's going to be 100 to 400, etc. pages, I probably want to buy it than just sit down and read it, because a lot of people, just if it goes beyond a TikTok, they don't want to read it. So sometimes I'm dealing with attention spans problems, but um, I do like to send out. Sometimes I'll write somebody a story and saying, I thought of you and I wrote this, and they're like,
Oh.
well, I would really have preferred a bottle of wine, but I guess I'll read this.
I don't know. I feel like we're getting a story that was kind of written for me would be a really neat thing. But then again, I am a book person. I love to read. I love to write. I wish I had more time to read, but I dedicate what I have predominantly to writing since.
And I kind of had the advantage of when I was a young child, I spent a lot of my time in the hospital due to like lung issues that I had, and ended up reading a lot, because like when you have your questions of the day, I usually am pulling something out of the classics or something that people have been
Love it.
long dead, and you're like, where is he pulling all this from?
I was gonna say I love when people do the classics. I love the ancient epics and stuff. So any references from them, I applaud because everybody enjoys different things. But there's something about knowing where stories came from and what inspired what, and then the evolution of the writing style. It plays all a part to where we are today. So it is kind of an interesting thing, and people should. Uh, make note of some of that. You don't have to read all the classics you don't want to. I get you. But, just be aware. Just be aware.
Like just last week, actually, I was with my creative writing students. I have two classes, seventh and eighth grade, of creative writing, and I was explaining to them the evolution of Beowulf, and
Oh.
they were just completely blown away. And I said, and they made a movie of it. Actually, they
Mm-hmm.
made a bunch of movies of it, but one of them you don't know. And I pulled up the 13th Warrior with Antonio Banderas.
Ooh, nice.
And they were like, "What is this?" And I said, "Well, this is actually Beowulf." And I explained the story, and I said, "And the person who wrote this, and I believe it was Michael Crichton, if I'm not mistaken,
I
wrote
think that's right. I think that's right.
right. He wrote Eaters of the Dead." And I said he actually wrote this in college to get out of a research assignment, because if you actually look up all the references and all the footnotes, they're complete baloney. There's nothing there. He made up every single reference. Yet he passed the course with an A because RAs are people who grade everything in college. And I said they weren't bothered to even look this stuff up, and he made them up out of pure cloth. And eventually he sold it later, and it became the 13th Warrior. But it's Beowulf. It really is straight. He just ripped it straight away. And they're
Yeah.
like, "Can you do that?" And I'm like, "Yes, Beowulf is not copyrighted. It's too old."
You can do it's at that point where you can do retellings, and I mean I am a person who, when I'm not creating new, not totally wild stories in fantasy, I love retellings based on old myths. So
Mhm.
you can do it, but yes,
Hey,
copyright makes sure.
you're working on some Greek now coming up,
I
aren't you?
am, but yeah, I've moved away from, well, not actually. So my Viking fantasy series that I've completed, the retelling of Nordic myth, I am now compiling into two special editions that are coming out in the next few months. So I'm super excited. But now, yes, I'm working on Greek myth, which has been a lot of fun and a lot of
Hmm.
research. And I think I just finally put them back on my shelves. But I had like a whole stack of like all the original source materials from Apollonius and Metamorphosis by Ovid, and all the text
Hmm.
from kind of predominantly the Greek side, but all the way into some of the Roman references too. So it's fun. But
Like
I'm one of those nerds.
and like I was telling my students that Nordic myth is amazing because they didn't really have a written language for generations, and everything was told, mouth to mouth as oral tradition. And I said, pretty much everything is an oral tradition until you write it down, and that's why the Beowulf myth changes as you go through the time frame because it's like a game of telephone. You remember
Uh,
the most of it, but you forget some details. And so once they had it written down, then it was different. But most of everything that we know about the very early Vikings is from other cultures writing about them, saying how horrible and terrible they were. And they
and
really
fun.
weren't. It's just when you're getting conquered, you don't feel, warm fuzzy feelings about the people conquering you.
No, it is fascinating depending on what source material and what text you read, and depending on who was the one who translated and wrote this stuff
Right.
down. You can definitely see some people were a little more mild, pertaining to that kind of paganism, and then others were definitely like, "This is evil" and all this stuff, even though they're writing these stories down. And it is one of those interesting things when you start reading a lot of those original texts and translations of those original texts. But
Yes.
those rabbit holes I could talk about and go
Yeah.
down
And that's
further and
like
further.
they would ask me about what's the difference between Jupiter and Odin. I'm like, nothing really. Same deity, just different place. So one's got one eye and the other's got two eyes. That's about it. I said,
Yep.
but they're pretty much the same guys. Jupiter and Zeus, same guy. Religions borrowed from each other, and they're like, why? And I'm like, because it wasn't written down at first. They were just what stories people told to figure out why lightning hit the ground.
Yep.
And they're like, "Oh, you can do that?" I'm like, "Sure, you can make up any story you want about why lightning strikes. It doesn't mean it's right, but it's entertaining."
Yep. And yeah, it is that kind of the ebb and flow of. It is not just religions, and but also just technology and everything. When you go into the actual history of everything, and again, it affects language, like what people infected someone else's language and terminology, and vice versa. And so,
Hmm.
again, all the really fun things when you start getting into that. But let me ask you, since the hour's starting to move by, and I want to make sure I hit some of these questions because if this platform's nice, usually it is, every so often it glitches. I'll be able to repurpose this onto my YouTube channel and put all your contact information down below in the off chance people find and follow you in the future, which is great. Now, you've also mentioned that your book is an ebook, pretty much available anywhere your ebooks are found. But outside of that, and you also talked about you were interested in moving into some kind of print. Is that
Yeah.
something you're trying to focus on next year, year after that? Is it just kind of a loose back in your mind, or do you have like a hard deadline of I kind of want to figure this out by this point?
Yeah, I don't really have a hard deadline. I'm hoping by kind of Christmas we can start moving in that direction. Um, I've got to finish, of course, finish the editing process and get that ready for print, and then I have to work with my sister, who's actually older, a little older than me. So sometimes she works a little slow and she's the one who does all my getting everything print ready and putting it on a thumb drive for me. But probably around Christmas, start of the new year, somewhere in that time frame. Barring any emergencies that life throws our way.
That's really exciting though, because uh, ebook is definitely, if you had to choose one format, it's the best one to do. But I am a person who likes physical copies.
Oh, I love
That's
them.
just what I have, and there are definitely people like me out there. So if you're expanding beyond ebook, definitely do a paperback. That would be the next best thing. And then from there, hardcovers and audiobooks are, what you want to do. And each one will open the door to different kind of readers. But yeah, having at least a paperback out there would be exciting. Says the
Yeah,
one.
that's where I want to go is paperback next, and uh, I love your backdrop of all your books back there. But
Thank you.
like I said, if I showed you the backdrop of my library, and you have to forgive me, I'm living in a little 1 bedroom and loft apartment right now with my wife and mother-in-law because our house right now is being basically rebuilt. They're putting a new roof on it and knocking out walls and all kind of stuff. So we're living cramped. But before we, and I didn't realize it when I was moving, I have upwards of 800 physical copy books, and not just paperbacks. I'm talking big old, library versions. And I was like, this is way too much stuff. And I never really appreciated my Kindle as much as when after I moved, I'm like, I can put all this on the Kindle.
Well, when my husband and I moved from New Orleans to Georgia, yeah, when he realized how many books I had, and of
Yeah.
course I expanded since then. But yeah, I understand that, and we're going through some renos right now, and we're living with all my downstairs bookshelves had to be moved around, so there's a lot of book boxes in the living room. It's not pleasant.
Well, I have a dream is when I get back into my house, I'm going to build some built-in bookshelves, and
Oh,
I want to
agree.
frame it all the way over the door. I've always wanted to have
Oh,
a bookshelf that goes over the door, and if I could figure out how to put a bookshelf on the door and keep the books from flinging out, I would do so. But
hey,
uh,
there
we
are
have to
there are
do.
those Murphy doors, those the secret doors that you can set up to look like a bookshelf. So there are ways. They're not cheap, but there are ways.
Well, we're dealing with a house that was built in the '50s, so not going to be able to pull a Murphy. I can do a lot of woodwork myself. My father had left me tons and tons of woodwork. I've got every tool you can need. It's just my skill set with putting it together. I can do shelves. I know I can do shelves. It's just opening the door and making sure you have clearance on the back end is the problem. In the '50s house, the doors always opened right to the wall, so it was probably not in the
Mhm.
cards. But I can do over the door, which is what I want to do. And
Oh,
then my wife wants a place to display all of her plates that we can't eat off of.
that's important too. I also have a few of those as well, so I understand. So yes, lots of shelves, lots of display
Yes.
places. Wonderful. So also, let me ask you another one of those
Mhm.
questions I always
Mhm.
try to make sure I cover is outside of book talk. Clearly, you're here. Are you on any other socials? You were talking about looking into a Substack in the future, but where else can people find you if not here? Unless this is
Sadly, I'm pretty much just a TikTok person. I did have um, um, a page, but that was dedicated to my. I write under Fallen Man Productions. That was my how who put out my book. That was me, but it's my company. I called Fallen Man Productions, and I had a person that was doing my web, and when I had to move out of Florida because I came back to Louisiana after 20 years out. We just kind of let it go because it was too long distance and all that. So I did have that, but I do have I kind of keep my um, social media to a minimum being a teacher. They
That's
don't really
probably
like us on
yes.
there. So TikTok, I told them, look, I got to, I do book talk and I'm trying to promote my book. And they said, well, that's fine. Just we don't want you commenting a lot. So
That's fair.
they kind of discourage us from social media.
I gotcha. It's one of those things like if you don't want your students on the screen all the time, they don't want to look up and see you on the screen either. So I get it. I do get that. But on the
And
count,
some of my content is a little, above the seventh, eighth grade level, and I don't really want my kids reading that and then trying to repeat it. So
yeah,
some of the language is a little because it isn't. Some of it takes place in New Orleans, so you get a little salty language,
hmm
and I don't really want them following that, and there are some intimate scenes that I don't want them reading about right now. So
I
that's kind of where I'm at since I'm in middle school. They moved me up to high school. We might start to do that. I do have. I'm trying to get together a sponsored through the school a contest for short stories for my kids that we're going to actually publish, and I got a deal on how much to publish. Just a pamphlet basically, soft cover, soft cover, soft cover, and about 80 pages. I think they said we could do, and I'm going to do a contest, and we're probably going to be printing that first part of January. But we're going to do since I don't know. Did you ever participate or heard of NaNoWriMo? Uh,
I never officially participated. I did kind of I log my stats periodically, but I never like made it hard my time because for me, I'm just one of those writers that when I have a hyper pressure to make sure all my words are done in a certain time frame, it puts too much stress on me, and then I'm less productive.
Well, I ended up I participated 5 times and I completed 3 times. The books weren't very good, so they never saw the light of day after that. But they were put through, and I did win. You know, win if we put it in parentheses. But NaNoWriMo is no more. They are gone because they were having financial issues, and then they had some ethical issues they ran into. So I decided I was going to run just in my school a November writing month. So I'm going to give them a month to write a short story, 750 to 1250 words, and poetry. So poetry of, I think I capped the poetry at 3 pages. So, and I've got my librarian has agreed to help judge. So hopefully we'll get them interested in that by having a contest and having them something they can physically see to hand out.
And writing short stories, I've discovered, is a skill into itself because I am an extrovert. I like to talk. I like long stories. Trying to challenge myself to write shorter works is arguably as hard, if not harder, than writing some of my longer works. It's fascinating. So it's a good skill to challenge people who may be interested in writing is, hey, if you can write a story succinctly, that is wonderful. You can expand upon it, but to write a story succinctly, that is it. It's a
Mhm.
challenge.
And I find I'm actually better at short story than um, full length novel. Sometimes I have a great plan, and then we end up with a novella and not a novel.
Yeah.
And the short stories actually, because I think I'm a little too ruthless sometimes, I just start scratching out paragraphs, and people are like, "Wait, that was good," and I'm like, "But it doesn't belong. It hasn't made itself known for the page yet."
Mhm.
And that's what people are just upset about when I start crossing things out. And I'm like, you need to look to Edgar Allan Poe. He was the man for editing.
Oh yeah. Oh, definitely, definitely. Sorry, I Have you ever considered trying to apply to anthologies? That's something that's been my goal starting this year, to start at least once a year submitting to an anthology just to see if I get in. But again, one, it challenges me to write a shorter work, and two, then you have that cross promotion of the other authors that are in that anthology. That's always a great thing.
Way back in high school when the Earth had just cooled, I actually did get published in an anthology, and had actually I think I had two stories in, like, I think it was 25 that was put out by a local college. So I ended up with two stories in there, and but they asked me to put one under a pseudonym so they didn't look like they were playing favorites. So I had to come up with a uh, a different name, and Charles Noble was my other name.
So
And
you
they said,
never
"Why
know.
Noble?" I said, "Because it sounds good."
It does sound good. It does. And hey, you never know, if you ever need to go back and create another pen name, that you already kind of have a pseudonym if you decide.
Yeah. Well, in Florida, when I lived there, I was for a while I was a private investigator, which is not as exciting as it sounds. But sometimes I would have to go and get information, and you never want to give your real name. So I had cards made up for Charles Noble, and I was a electrical inspector.
Huh, that's
So
smart.
anytime you walk around with a billboard with a clipboard and a high vis vest, people just kind of ignore you.
Yep. So actually, now that what is intriguing is how much of your experience doing that job influenced your character Easy.
Quite a bit. And I was also a military guy. I was in the army for a while, 4.5 years, and I was in intelligence, and we were actually taught how to disappear. So some of the stuff Easy does is directly from the army, directly from my experience as a private investigator of just how not to be noticed. And it's interesting. I'm 6'2", weigh 250 pounds, have red hair, and in Germany I could disappear in a heartbeat, and people are like, "Where'd he go?"
Mm-hmm.
And we used to have exercises where they would send you out and say you're to disappear for 3 hours. We are sending the MPs to find you. Go. So it was fun. It was hide and seek with high powered weapons.
Oh wow.
They don't do that anymore, I'm sure. This is back in the early 90s, 1990s, right when we went to the first Gulf War.
No, that's it. It always is interesting to see. Again, we're always told you write what you know, and that can be applied in so many different ways. But it is interesting to find out how each author applies that. Being maybe you pull, some ideas or experiences that you've had in a job or occupation or a life experience, or you hit, something you a friend or someone your loved ones experience, and you're able to incorporate that in your stories. So it is just really interesting to see, even when you write fiction or sci-fi or fantasy, how much is inspired and influenced by the real world.
Which really makes you think about what J.R. Tolkien's life experiences were.
True. True. He definitely loved his Norse mythology. We'll go back there and be like, he
Oh,
definitely
yes,
loved his Norse myth. If you want to talk about a retelling, let's talk about his work. But yeah, it
yeah,
is. Sorry,
or
what?
or play the I'm losing words here.
Okay,
Richard
it's been a long
Richard K.
day.
Dick. The Do androids dream of
Oh
electric sheep?
yeah,
Yeah, he
yeah.
he had a lot of problems.
And you never know how you, I mean, was it Lewis Carroll? And like everybody's just like, it's interesting to see what kind of influences their writing and how it kind of comes out in through
Yeah.
story.
I read some things about Lewis Carroll and that he was writing from a place of sorrow, that he was writing after the loss of a child. I read somewhere. And I was like, that's amazing. I didn't know that he could even find that much joy in the loss of a child. But it was, I read that he had lost either it was his child or his niece or nephew or something.
Hmm.
I don't quite recall, but I was reading it, and he said he was writing to get rid of his malaise about this.
Yeah, and there are so many people who write to heal in
Yes.
various ways, and that is pops up all the time. And I've talked to a lot of authors who write to heal, and the stories that come out from it are very just emotional, impactful, however they're expressed. But let me actually ask, since we're right at the end of the hour, my
Okay.
final question is, for you and anybody else who's listening, is there anything topic wise you wanted to cover that we didn't get to cover, or any question that you had and you wanted to ask that you didn't get a chance to ask, because this is those last few minutes to do so?
Um, let's see. Since you always have your question of the day, what is your favorite dragon?
My favorite dragon. I would, if from all stories, be it cinema to TV to books, my favorite dragon would be Draco from Dragonheart. I like the idea of an intellectual dragon versus just the pure bestial dragons that you see in some of these other interpretations. But I do like the idea of an intellectual dragon that still has bestial elements, but it just adds a different kind of level. And it kind of goes back to, again, various myths of dragons that could talk, that could communicate to
Mhm.
people. And I like that one.
Now,
Plus, Sean
from
Connery's
Dragonheart,
fantastic.
from Dragonheart, I thought that Draco was the most human of the characters. He had the most emotion, and I thought that was interesting that everybody else was heartless and out for themselves mostly
Yes.
at the beginning, except for Draco. He was there to save people.
Mhm. It's one of those questions: is what makes a monster, what makes a beast? And sometimes humans are the worst representations of what means for humanity. And you can have, it's those kind of conversations are fascinating. Again, fiction's a great way to play with some of those kind of topics. So
Right. Yeah, I'm thinking about writing a dystopian one with our current uh, things that are happening in our nation. I'm thinking we're fast approaching dystopian territory here.
yeah, when they say truth is stranger than fiction, I mean, yes, right now a little
Mhm.
bit so, but maybe that's why dystopian stories are still prevalent, and they have a big following. Is there is that eerie stuff, but sometimes it maybe is too close to home.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I wouldn't have pegged Draco as your favorite dragon, but I'm glad to know the reasoning behind it.
Yeah, see, he's definitely my favorite dragon. Now I could be change my mind if I discover another one, but so far
Yeah,
he's been my
currently.
favorite for a long time. So.
Right. Until further notice.
Until further notice. And I do love myself some dragons. I anytime I can get a hold of a movie show, and when I have the chance to read a book, they sell me.
Yeah.
I'm one of those
I,
people.
I- I'm the same way about dwarves. I like dwarves. I think they're underrepresented in movies and books, other than just the trope of the dwarf wanting to go mine something.
Well, I will be playing around with a dwarf character in the an upcoming series that I've been kind of plotting out actually this past week, and it will be, hopefully then you will enjoy it, because it's not just a normal dwarf. It's a little twist on it versus the Nordic dwarves that you see in my Viking series. So it's not my first dwarf, but it's my first main character dwarf.
That would be great.
Yay. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with me this past hour. I'm so glad we got to talk and get to learn about your current book and your upcoming series. And it's just been a lot of fun.
It was a pleasure, and thank you for inviting me on. And like I said, if anybody wants to find my work, you can look on Amazon under Easy Town. Town is spelled with an E on the end, and you should find them there. If you're on Kindle, it's free.
You said the sequel's tentative name is Easy Money?
Easy Money, yes, that's
Yes.
the
I
tentative
love these
name.
books.
I even have the cover on it for that one. I'm just
Hmm.
waiting to finish up the last few chapters, edit and get it to my sister for some typesetting, basically.
Well, if you ever want to do another one of these, let me know. Maybe after you've released Easy Money, or again your sci-fi work that you're working on. What? It's not. You said it was. Is it sci-fi or was it? You said steampunk. Steampunk.
Both. It's sci-fi and steampunk.
Okay,
So
so I did hear both words.
it's leaning into steampunk. Let's
Okay.
put it that way.
That's. I was gonna say. There's a steampunk convention in Georgia that I attended last year, which was a lot of fun. So you never know. Maybe one day if you ever get to these live events and get a break.
Well, I'm going as a tourist to Cajun Con, which is coming up in December. December, I think 7th and 8th, or 6th and 7th, somewhere around there. Beginning part of December, I'm going as a spectator, but I think it'll be fun, and I'm going to see if I can make some contacts there.
Perfect. Well, I wish you the best and lovely talking with you, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your night.
Thank you very much. You too. Bye.
Bye.